OMG. Because I was like, what do I say other than hey? What do I say? OMG.
Ben just shamed me for using hey as my first word.
Welcome to 2020.
Like, that's a normal thing to do.
Was that your first word? Is that literally OMG is 3 letters, Siobhán? I thought you had a master's degree.
Yeah, I was saying my first word was hey, and that is indeed one word.
Maybe it's an anagram.
Who knows?
Well, what I was going to tell you is that we have Ernie Boch back, and I love saying that, Ernie Boch back. He came on down and he stuck around. But this guy is literally like, he's a Renaissance man. Like, for real. Like, we are all on lockdown, and we were definitely like mid-lockdown when we did this.
Well, it's funny because he has like you guys said, he has such a huge presence, but the only way to understand Ernie Boch Jr. is to talk to him and get some of these stories. And I feel like we really got to get into all sorts of conversations and dig deep about his experiences and, stuff that you wouldn't necessarily find by just looking him up on the internet.
Yeah, he's got the name drops down. He knows everyone and everyone knows him. So there's some really cool rock star stories. Maybe
Ernie's at a level where they're dropping his name. Because I remember one time I was on my my Facebook, and one of my favorite rock star drummers, I won't call him out, was like, dude, where'd you get that Ferrari? Because of course I'm a loser and like posed in front of one of his insane, ridiculous cars. I'm like, I know a guy. And he was like all like starstruck that I could get him like any chance of I'm like, oh my God, is this what happens when you're as cool as Ernie Boch? Like I'd love to be that guy. Like I honestly, if I could be locked down anywhere, I want to be at Ernie Boch's place, hanging out with him in the hot tub. With Steel Panther playing in the background.
Sounds romantic.
Yeah, just us. Just me and Ernie alone. Is it weird?
Yeah.
Is it weird
yet?
It's
a horrifying image, but...
Honestly, we want Ernie to come back, and I know he's just going to hear this, and he's just going to be like face palming. Although, in our defense, nothing that's going to happen on the show could possibly be crazier than what Ernie has done himself in life, which is amazing.
So check it out. Part 2 with Ernie Boch Jr.
Ernie! I am Benny Goodman, and welcome to another episode of 2020, where we may be socially distant, but we're certainly socially relevant. I'll get to the stutter later. But that said, right over there, we have the stupendous, the wonderful, the magnanimous Siobhán Cronin.
Yeah.
And then this time I won't undersell you. I actually think that if anything, you're superfluous, Cory, because that's my backhanded way of saying that you're too much.
That
he's
makes
almost
him sound
too much.
Worse.
I know. He exacerbates
you need to get
the
out
situation.
Your thesaurus.
I know. Cory Beza, the bass player from Lost Symphony, the band that sponsors us.
Yes.
Along with Boston Guitars. Go to Reverb and buy some guitars from Heath. He's awesome. That said, I'd like to introduce our guest of the hour, Ernie Boch Jr., ladies and gentlemen.
Woo!
Thank you.
And all non-binary people in between. So, now that we got that out of the way, I just want to get to the real deal. So, Ernie, you're a huge philanthropist, and you rebuilt what was once the Wang Theater, and you gutted this place and made it honestly one of the most beautiful venues.
It's so beautiful. It's stunning.
In the entire world. But when you talked about it, you said, do you know that I slept out here to get tickets to Deep Purple? And then you came back with Ernie and the Automatics and you played with Deep Purple. What was that like for you? Now you got keys to the building.
Okay, hang on. First of all, I didn't redo the building. I have the naming rights for the Wang Theater and the Schubert Theater. It's called the Boch Center. And when I initially did it, I'm very close to the guy that runs it. Very, very close. It's a good partnership. And he said, we need new seats. So we ripped out every seat. It's a 3,500 seat venue. We ripped out.
I love how you're like, we didn't do anything. And then you're just like, we took out every single seat, which is the only thing that my arthritic ass cares about.
Structurally, he's saying,
but it's a 100-year-old theater. It's absolutely gorgeous. I would say that it's on the same par as the Fox Theater in Detroit. Which is
it absolutely is.
You played there, Siobhán?
Yeah, a few times. I played there with, I think it was Il Volo, the Italian trio. Yeah, it's really beautiful.
I played there. We opened up for Deep Purple there. That is one of the most spectacular theaters in the country. So anyway, so we did the seats. We did the seats there. But as Benny was alluding, I can tell the story very quickly. Back in the 70s, I was a 70 kid, and if you wanted to go to a show, you had a telephone. You could call what they had, Ticketron. It was called Ticketron, and you called up and you gave a credit card, and you got tickets waiting for you at the box office. Well, there were a lot of problems with that for us. First of all, we didn't have a credit card, and it was always busy when you called. Always, always, always busy. So what we used to do many, many times, and I think people of my generation have done it, is that we used to sleep outside the box office. So when the box office opened, we could get the ticket. It was almost standard procedure. I did it for many, many bands. But one night, I think it was 74, 73 or 74, I can't remember. As a matter of fact, I think I talked to Glenn, 74. In 1974, we slept outside the Wang Theater for tickets to Deep Purple. And we indeed were the first people there. When they opened the box office, we got the seat. 38 years later, I opened for Deep Purple in that venue.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah, and 1 year later, the venue had my name on it.
The funny part is that Bruce Mittman, the gentleman that used to run WAAF, which is a huge station in Boston, is probably still thinking to himself, but you're still not powerful enough to get me a picture with Ringo Starr.
Oh, come on.
I gotta heckle you forever because that's the funniest thing. Because I'm gonna tell you the only thing that was better for me than spending $4,000 on a Ringo picture, which by the way, I totally worth it. I love Ringo Starr, and not getting a picture with him was seeing the look of total horror on Bruce's face when you got to go take a picture and he didn't. I was like, this is worth it. I would rather watch him be over here.
Back up. I haven't met everybody, but I've met a lot of people. I've met 4 or 5 presidents. Okay. It was more difficult to meet Ringo Starr than it was to meet the last few presidents. Jeez. In my opinion. It was,
but you know what? I feel like they didn't have the right security because when we first got there, you had a key to the back of the building. And I remember walking down and seeing like the jacket he wore for Sergeant Pepper's and thinking to myself in my head, do I ruin my relationship with Ernie and just walk out with this?
No, but,
oh my God.
But they had rules. Now, we were talking about Bruce.
You're not supposed to do it. You break those rules. It's called rock and roll.
Whoa. My friend Bruce, who we talked about, there were rules. Everybody knew the rules going in. So it's not like we come to this venue, all of a sudden Ernie can get you to meet Ringo Starr. No, the rules are set. Even though he's played at my venue, in theater, you don't have any power.
You want to know why I don't feel bad for Bruce? Was because between both, you had to spend $5,000 on art, which all goes to charity. So don't think that
was Ringo's.
Right, $5,000 one. But his paintings were I have a print that was $4,000, and Bruce brought a picture that was $4,000. So I said, Bruce, I'll donate this to you, and he was just like. He didn't even want to go with my shyster plan. I was like, dude, I could get you a picture. Together, we spent $8,000, and he still didn't go for it.
That's because the rules that were put up front weren't adhered to. And as a matter of fact, Bruce was so out of control that night that my friend
Which is fantastic.
My friend Joe that runs the theater called me and said, hey, and I said, all right, let's ban him for a year. So we banned Bruce
No way.
To that theater, yes.
Oh, that you know what's so funny is so people get some background. Bruce Mittman is famous for he got Opie and Anthony on the radio back in the day. I'm sure not everyone knows them. They're not on the radio the way they were, but back in the day in Boston, if you were listening to the radio,
they were local.
Opie and Anthony were local. They had their own CD that they had in Newbury Comics of their crank calls, and they were the funniest thing ever. And they had no remorse, and the bad guy, just like pig vomit for Howard Stern, was Bruce Mittman. Except it was real. It was totally real. And poor Bruce got beat the shit out of him. I mean, and they would do horrible things that were hysterical, but absolutely wrong. Certainly, you couldn't get away with it anymore. And now it's like Bruce doesn't want to color in the lines. That's why I think it's funny because he's like the corporate guy that says, you're not supposed to do this. And then he shows up and goes, can't we do this? And I'm just sitting there like, I'll play by the rules. It's fine. I'll buy the painting and give it to the children fund.
Yeah, and who we're talking about is Bruce Mittman. You can look him up. You can Google him. In Boston, there was a legendary radio war between WBCN, who was a powerhouse, nationally known radio station, big station, WBCN, and Bruce ran WAAF. Both rock stations, both in the Boston market, and both hated each other. When you went into BCN, in the men's room, in the urinal, they used to put AF bumper stickers on the bar. So you would be peeing on AF every time you took a piss. So it was that intense and that crazy. And I got to say that Bruce Mittman won that war. BCN is no longer in existence. AF is no longer in existence, but BCN went out first.
Yeah.
You know, it was really funny. I used to record at Futura Studios right around the corner when BCN was back. Was it ComAv? Were they on? Ernie, was it ComAv? Like right around the corner from Fenway? Remember the studios they used to have?
Yeah, they were actually.
It was right above the Ramrod. So it was so hilarious because this is a big gay club. So you go out.
Across the street. Ramrod was across the street.
So I'd be getting out of my recording session. The DJs would be changing over, and then there'd just be this crazy line of just people dressed with boas and like 6-inch heels. Yeah. I'm just like, this is rock and roll. And then Fenway's right over there. So like, welcome to Boston.
Right. They were originally at the top of the Prue.
Oh, geez.
Oh, yeah.
The top, way back. They were at the top of the Prue. What used to be.
Is that like Garabedian times?
Yes, exactly. That used to be.
He tells me he built it with his bare hands.
Yeah. Well, John Garabedian. Have you had John on your show?
Well,
no,
John actually. So I had John. I went out to dinner with John the other day, and he goes, "So when are you having me on your show?"
Yeah.
And I said, "When you ask me nicely enough."
Yeah.
And so people know how absolutely offensive that is. John was in 200 markets for like, not over the whole period, but he built up the 200 markets over 50 years of radio. Like other than Casey Kasem, Don Imus, Howard Stern, there's nobody's voice that's been heard more. And if you're from Boston, he was the voice of the Boston Garden. So when Led Zeppelin went on stage, he was the guy that would announce them. So I always like to play a game with John Garabedian. I always like to play, like, throw out any random rock star from a certain period and just see like his story about it. And, you know, like one time I was like, oh yeah, so did you ever meet Jim Morrison? He was like, that guy was pounding Coronas backstage. BB King's just drinking like a nice bud by himself, pounding him. Then he passes out on the speaker. And the crowd goes crazy. The band just keeps going on. And this guy's drunk. He's just drunk. And John's totally fed up with it. I'm like, you're telling me this amazing Jim Morrison story at the Boston Garden. And you were the guy that announced it. And like, meanwhile, he's like speaking with total disdain, like these stupid drunks.
Yeah. He's an amazing guy.
He's 78.
He's, if you Google him, he was very inventive. He was one of the architects of pop radio. He really
he started V66. So what people don't realize, if you haven't seen it, go on. So everyone's doing the Netflix thing now. And have you seen the V66? You're in the V66 documentary, aren't you?
I'm in that documentary. Yeah.
Oh yes. Okay. You're in like the credits, right? Didn't he like totally blacklist you just to the end because he's Garabedian you? He 2020'd you?
No, it's kind of a longer story, but. What happened was when MTV came out in, 82, 81?
When video killed the radio star, Ernie.
Yeah, when that came out, that Boston was not wired. You couldn't get it. The cable was not, Boston didn't get wired for a long time.
Do you not remember the saying, I want my MTV?
Right. So
you're supposed to call your cable provider and say, I want this, because you couldn't actually just turn on the channel. Like now we have 8 million channels.
Right. But back then, because Boston wasn't really wired and they didn't really get we didn't really get MTV. At the same time MTV was being invented, Garabedian had they were on the same trajectory. And he hit Boston with V66, which was a New England version.
But did you tell you're missing the whole shyster part of it? You're missing the shyster part of it. So it opened up. The tower opened up in Worcester. So it was for the Metro West area, which is, I think, the third largest in the country. So if you had actually set up the tower in Worcester, it would have not reached the reach that it did. But because where he set it up, which is now, I think they turned it into a home shopping network afterwards, because of where he was, he had the largest reach, and at that time, arguably as much, if not more, than MTV, certainly for that area. And it was 24-hour live music television. And they just went bananas. And the funny part is, it only lasted for like a year, and everyone lamented over it. But John was just like, hey, man, I made money. I was out. We did our thing and moved on to BCN.
It's really a great story, and the documentary is really, really cool.
It's awesome.
Life on the V, I think it's called, right?
Life on the V.
Wow.
Google that. Life on the V. It's super
Okay.
The thing that's cool, and so people understand too, I mean, they don't talk about it as much on the show, but even before V66, John was breaking everyone from Bruno Mars to Miley Cyrus to the Backstreet Boys. But even I think he told me, and he might tell me it's a different song or something like this, but he wanted to play I won't get fooled again by the Who. And they were like, no, this is not a single. He's like, no, this is a single. This is what I want to play. And they're like, no, don't play it. And then he played it like 5 times, like all 8 minutes of it or whatever, and made it a #1 single. And if actually at one point with his open house party, it was so ubiquitous, kind of like you on billboards and television here, but all over the place, that if you actually played a song on it, if he played a song on it, you would chart. You would actually chart on the Billboard charts just because there were so many listeners at once that you would be on the chart because of it.
Yeah. When Lady Gaga played Boston Garden for the first time, she as part of the show, during the show, she thanked John Garabedian for breaking her.
Do you know the second half of that? Let's talk about how cool John is. So I'll tell you John's side of the story. John he makes the Irish exit really early. He wasn't there for that. He saw like the first 2 songs, was like, this is cool, left, and then he gets a million text messages. Where are you? Because apparently they put like a light all over looking for him and couldn't find him. He was already fucking screwing out of town because like, fuck this noise. So how cool do you have to be that Lady Gaga invites you backstage, dedicates a song to you, and you're already on your way home because like 93 is going to be a mess.
That's amazing, though, how important things like that are to making an artist. And I can only say, I'm like, in terms of Starset's story, they had a lot of trouble with radio. I mean, they're a Columbus-based band, and Columbus radio, they weren't visionary enough to see that there was something in the music. It was Colorado, the DJs out in Colorado, Wisconsin, other markets that were like, oh, this is going to be a single. And that's the one, I don't know if you can see it, the Gold Records over there. That was broken out in Colorado.
Yeah,
so it takes
maybe you should show us your gold records, Siobhán.
No, it's only one. It's over there, like
it's
in the corner.
It's one more than Cory, myself, or Ernie have. Although Ernie has a Grammy, so there's that.
That's amazing.
It may not be his personal Grammy, but he personally owns it now. It's pretty cool.
Still counts.
It still counts. Well, because here's the thing. So the thing I love about Ernie is that, he gives so much back in so many ways. But when you spend money fun. And I gotta tell you, holding "Strangers in the Night," best song of 1963 from Frank Sinatra. It's not like Tower of Power. It's Frank Sinatra. I held that. I felt the energy. I was like, holy shit! Thank you so much, Ernie, for letting me hold this thing. No one else would ever let me do this.
I have a friend that has a store, and she gets all this crazy memorabilia and everything. And she called me up one time. She said, I have Frank Sinatra's Grammy for
Strangers in the Night.
Yeah, 1966, Strangers in the Night. And I said, oh, interesting. And we went back and forth, and I bought it. And she said, okay, I'll shine it up for you and send it out. And I said, don't shine it up. Don't touch it. So
Let me change the strings on this Jimi Hendrix guitar for you.
It's got this great patina on it, Yeah. But I think I'm a big Sinatra fan. As a matter of fact, Netflix has a 3-part special right now on Frank Sinatra. You thought you knew everything about Frank Sinatra. If you watch this Netflix documentary, there's still more you don't know.
Wow.
Did you watch the David Foster documentary on Netflix yet?
No, but you
have to watch it. I'm telling you right now, you'll relate to it. But one thing, So all these people are talking about how he makes them do a million different takes and all this. And Celine Dion's like, I have to hit all by myself 7 times. And then it goes to Paul Anka and he just goes, you know how many takes it took Frank Sinatra to do My Way? 1.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I
I don't really know David that well. I did hang out with him last year in LA. I was at his table for an event, and I got to tell you, great guy. Like you
gotta watch the special. I'm telling you right now. Like I didn't know, and I'm actually almost ashamed that I didn't know. You know what I mean? Because here's one of the things that I do, because I'm a complete nerd. But like when I go to psych myself up, when I go take a walk or go on my hoverboard or whatever, I'm listening to Whitney Houston, I Will Always Love You. Now, here's a true story. That was arranged by David Foster. And it was Kevin Costner's idea to do it with a cappella for the first verse, which for me melts my mind every single time because Whitney Houston is just pure awesomeness.
Yeah.
And he fought tooth and nail, and Clive Davis apparently screamed at him and all that sort of stuff and said, listen, David, I think you know what you're talking about most of the time, but let me tell you, I know fucking Whitney, and you're keeping it a cappella. And he said as soon as it went out, that he was getting calls within seconds of people saying this is the best thing that you've ever done.
Yeah.
So that guy, so if you want to know what the whole thing's about, is he just makes the best sugary power ballads ever.
Yeah, an amazing guy. Like I said, I don't know him well. I've hung out with him a little, but in the industry, he's like, he's a legend.
Oh, yeah.
You clearly, know a lot of people that, that most of our viewers and listeners are probably familiar with. We talk about a lot with the people we have on about mindset and mentality of people that are operating at high level. Do you have any observations of these super successful or even legendary artists and musicians that you've noticed that you pick up on that they seem to all kind of share?
Absolutely. And it's not just musicians. If you take super successful people in any industry and anywhere, and they're pretty much at the top of the game or up there where the air is thin, there's a thread of sameness through all those people. And the super successful people are super successful because they do what people that aren't super successful do. And there's, maybe 10 or 15 things that they will sit there and say, I do this, I do this, I do this. And every single one of them in any single industry will have a common thread through it.
Ask you a question to audit Dan Beck, because he said something about success, and he has, he made sure to let us know in our last meeting that he had 100 platinum records that he had just given away, other than the ones behind him. He's worked with Michael Jackson and Pearl Jam and all these people, but he said that dealing with success is knowing how to deal with problems.
Well, that's true. That's absolutely true.
Yeah. So what is that thread that you're speaking of though? Like, is there an actual tangible thing that you're seeing?
There is a thread, and there's a gentleman that has made his career of getting the algorithm of those. Tony Robbins.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Robbins' whole gig, his whole everything is he studied successful people, and he is in his teachings he tells what these people do, and it's all the same. And I'll just give you one off the top of my head. These people, they don't take no for an answer. They just don't take no for an answer, and they build their universe around their future success. There's an old saying, dress for the job you want to get.
Sure.
And that's real. That's a real thing. And there's just so many. The successful people are common in a lot of things, but success is not. There's a gazillion different ways of being successful. One guy does it this way, one guy does it another way. It's complete polar opposites, but they're both successful. But there is that thread that runs through to both people.
This is so interesting because you mentioned Dave Mustaine a few times, and I actually just picked up his. I don't know if it's autobiography or if he had a ghostwriter, but I just started reading it.
Auto rant.
The one with his face on the whole.
Yeah.
Every book he has a new book coming out with his face on it too.
No, but you're totally right. I mean, he is like relentless. Like he just had a very clear idea of what he wanted to do.
You have a very intimate relationship with Dave Mustaine.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so I'm interested if you have anything to say about him because I can't put this book down. I've just been like, oh my God.
He is, and he's actually stayed here. He's an amazing guy. And he one of the other things is when you start something, always have the end game in mind. Always. No matter what you're doing.
I like how you dropped the record in there, end game.
You want to do this, you have to know where it's going. The end game, you always have to know where you want to be, whether you get there or not, or whether it doesn't matter if you have to climb Mount Everest 20 times. This is the end game I want to be. So every time you start something, there's always that end in mind.
Can I tell you that happened with me when I met Dave Mustaine with you? So it's funny because I told Alex, your son, multiple times that every interaction I pretty much ever had with Dave Mustaine has been like everyone else's interaction, which is like he says something completely snarky or whatever. And I was like, he's so nice. He's so nice. I'm like, it's because he loves your dad. And he's like, no. Come with me to this Hendrix thing. He's going to be awesome. And I go there and I stand next to you guys. You all are like 15 feet taller than me. I'm like 5'1". You're like 6'11". Dave Mustaine's like pushing 8 feet. And you guys are standing next to me and you guys are talking for so long. First off, you didn't introduce me. He ends up looking over, like talking to you. And then in mid-sentence looks at me and goes, is there a reason you're standing here? And then the funny part is, so this is where I go to the end. This is where I don't take no for an answer. I said, actually, yes, I'm friends with them, but I'd like you to sign my record. And he signs my record angrily through his scarf. And then later that night, he goes back to his bus and he comes back smelling a little bit funky, a little bit glazed over eyes. I'm sitting there blocking Joe Satriani from going on the stage because I got my arm around Johnny Lang and he goes, did you get all the autographs you wanted? But I think he actually was asking me genuinely. So like that was the closest I think I've been with Mustaine.
First of all, never talk out of school about Dave Mustaine. That's number one rule.
I love Dave Mustaine. He's like my favorite.
And yeah, no, he is a great guy. But there's a guy that has something that is highly unusual. And you know, that heavy metal rock is so in its lane. And he has done such a great job with Megadeth, can play the whole entire world, sells records, he's a study in itself for success. He's just amazing guy.
You know why he's so angry? It's because he's right. Because he does play guitar better than Metallica. And every single time they do anything, Metallica goes, oh, here's something else that everyone says isn't even as good as Megadeth. But still, they're more successful, which is totally America summed up for you. We're going to give you a trophy for not being as good as the other one. But I would be so angry if I was him too, because you want to know what? I actually just got this.
Can't even hear him.
Yeah.
In my travels, I got one of 4 first Metallica flyers ever made with Dave Mustaine on it. And I got to tell you.
What are you going to tell us?
I'd be mad if I wrote almost every single song on their first 3 records that are awesome. And even did the Mechanics. We talked to David Ellison at your house about the Mechanics, which is the same song as the 4 Horsemen, except faster, heavier, and cooler. And Metallica still get all the credit for everything. So I would be angry about Dave Mustaine too, because it's like, how much better do you want me to be than these guys for you to acknowledge it?
Yeah, I respect.
I love Metallica, by the way. I'm not saying I hate them, but Megadeth are amazing. I
respect heavy metal, and I have friends in the industry and bands and stuff like that. But it's really not my thing. I wouldn't like after this go listen to heavy metal. That's not me.
You're a Beatles guy, aren't you?
I like blues based rock and roll. I'm real like that, you know.
Can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong.
So I have to ask you this too. So when we went inside your car salon, there was a Ferrari. Now we're talking about gas, based cars, but there was some technology on this that I was not aware existed. It doesn't have a windshield. it blows. Is it centrifugal force? I don't even know the proper term. So that, can you explain this?
Ferrari came out with this really cool technology in their latest Icon series vehicle. Ferrari is going to build over the next 20 years, supposedly. You never really know with Ferrari. They have the Icon series, which they will tip their hat to the older style vehicles with the latest and greatest of today's technology. Mm-hmm. So they put in for the first time ever a vehicle that has a virtual windshield. So when you look at the car standing still, there literally is no windshield. But when the car goes, the car blows air straight up about 1.5 feet in front of you, and that protects you from the wind. It's a windshield.
Like a force field.
Yeah, it's literally a virtual windshield. It's really cool.
That's amazing. So if an object were to come at it, does it blow it out, or is this?
I would say no. If a rock,
okay.
It's a rock.
Yeah.
But
I was just wondering.
It just makes it a better experience, because I don't know if you've ever driven a vehicle without a windshield. It gets, you've seen them, the guys with the goggles, the leather hat, the scarf flying. The old days, that's how it used to be. But now you can have a vehicle, no windshield, no top, and actually drive it and be comfortable.
That's crazy.
So that actually brings up, so obviously we've talked a little about the music stuff and the rock and roll history, but you are a car guy. And as someone who also, sells vehicles kind of for a living, I'd say, how is the auto industry being affected in comparison to, we kind of have a grasp on the music industry, but how's that being affected in your view?
Well, let's start in March, because really that's where it really came. Mid-March is where everybody went underground. The industry has been on the longest run without a downturn in basically the history of the industry.
Wow.
It was going very well. The economy was doing very well. Everything was happening. Technology, cars were actually being produced for less money because of the technology. And the people that are into technology, it's like a candy land. It's still available to you. So people love purchasing new cars. But then when COVID hit, the government made the stores close and everything. And then not only that, but the pipeline got shut off. The manufacturers in the United States stopped producing.
Right.
The manufacturers in Mexico, the manufacturers in Japan, they stopped producing. So from March until basically 10, 15 days ago, anybody that had inventory did well, did very, very well, because there was nothing to buy. So they did it. Now that the pipeline in Japan is starting to get back together, and the people that supply parts are
that make a 2020 Ferrari more valuable in the future, Ernie, because it's like the pandemic Ferrari. They only made so many of them because there was production problems.
No, they only make so many of them anyway.
Yeah.
But right now, so the industry is getting back up. It's getting back up, but there's a real shortage. If you're a person and you go to a dealership anywhere in the country, there's very little inventory.
That sucks, because I'm looking for a car.
I was going to ask, so did
come on down.
Did the demand stay pretty steady? Did it seem like people were still interested in buying cars? Was it mostly the supply side that was an issue?
No, the demand stopped and the supply stopped. Mm-hmm. But then the demand started before the supply, which is exactly where we are right now. The demand for vehicles is much more than they can actually supply. So in fact, but that will by the end of the year, it'll all be.
Ferrari's the new toilet paper.
No, this is all cars.
Yeah.
No, I'm messing around. But that said, I want to bring it back to something that really made my heart feel good, because you can give some serious insight on this. So I got the privilege of being invited to go see the Kings of Chaos when you had them at your house. And for those that don't know, the Kings of Chaos is kind of a revolving door of super, super amazing, famous rock stars that play together in an ultimate band. And I think who was there at that time? Billy Gibbons. Was it? It's Chester from Linkin Park.
Billy Gibbons, Steve Stevens, Matt Sorum.
Was it DeLeo?
Well, yeah,
Robert, I think played bass.
I think Robert was here. Yeah.
Yeah, and Robin Zander.
Oh
right?
yeah, Robin Zander.
And Robin's. We can't. I love how we forget the guy from Cheap Trick. You know what I mean? Like that's how good that band was. But it was so cool. Because first off, I was going to say I would love to know more about Chester, but one of my favorite pictures ever of him, and one that you actually posted, is him in. You have like a cool, like, how would you describe that back room where he was like meditating?
Oh, the pillows.
With all the pillows.
I call it the pillow room.
The pillow. Okay, fair enough. But so what was it like having Chester at your house? I mean, what was it like to get to know him? I'm sure people want to know.
Chester, I personally had never met Chester Bennington until he came to my front door. And when he came, I didn't have any like preconceived notions because I liked every band he was in. I super respected singer, but he was a great guy. I mean, amazing guy. I think they stayed 2 or 3 nights, but I get up early in the morning. I'm up by 6:30. Yeah. And Chester was up at like 5:30 and he would hit the gym.
Gosh.
Yeah, he would hit the gym. So he would work out every single morning, and we would have coffee together at breakfast. In my kitchen with just me and him. And he was telling me about the new record that he had, and he played me a little of it. And he was just an extremely personable, brilliant guy. Like, I don't know what his IQ was, but whatever it was higher than the normal person. And he got along really, really well with my son. And we legitimately really, really liked Chester Bennington. I mean, he just was a great, great guy. And then he was going to come to Boston. And in a few weeks before he was going to come to Boston, he texted us and said, "Hey, I'm coming to Boston. Please come out to the show." And, then he ended up tragically losing his life.
I gotta tell you, my favorite part of the whole thing was when Chester was on the side of the stage. So they have like a revolving door as far as lead singers. So Robin Zander will go sing a Cheap Trick song. He'll go sing, a Zeppelin song. But when Chester would go off the stage, he would keep dancing. He would do like I get like Mick Jagger, Steven Tyler dance. And like you said, he worked out all the time. Yeah, he had like an 8-pack. And he was like, I have a picture with him on the side of the stage, and he looked so ripped. But he was so nice.
Yeah.
But the funniest part was I was standing on the side of the stage, and then I remember I tend to block people on the side of the stage because I'm rude and inconsiderate and don't know my space all the time. I'm just an obnoxious person. And I remember him being so polite and like kind of like dancing up behind me and almost like grooving on me and being like, "Hey." I'm like, "What's going on, man?" He's like, "I got to go on stage and sing a song." I'm like, "Oh."
He was when he was here, he was extremely healthy lifestyle, super healthy.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing.
Awesome guy, awesome voice, and just so appreciative of everything. And I gotta tell you, when I went and met Robert DeLeo from Stone Temple Pilots, all he talked about was how sweet of a guy and how incredible it was to be able to work with someone like Chester. Especially even with Stone Temple Pilots, because his voice was so incredible that like he could sing anything. He's a voice that will be remembered for all time. And I'm honored. I feel like it's like in 20 years, we're going to say that was the Jimi Hendrix. Like you got to hang out with Chester is in the same ballpark of, oh, you hung out with George Harrison. And I know that sounds pretentious, but I really think that he's going to influence people just the same way, just a whole new generation.
Yeah, great guy. Great guy.
I've noticed that with like a lot of when you meet people that are really at the top, I feel like a lot of them really are very personable and down to earth. They're just very authentic. And I feel like that's part of that vision of like, what you want and you're a no bullshit type person. I feel like people like that are just so easy to get along with, because they let you know who they are right away.
Agreed. Completely agree.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell a funny story, and Ernie, I'll let you go in as deep as you want to go on it. But one time, so our friend Paul, and I go back to him because Paul's a common thread when he comes to town. He stays with Ernie at the guest house, and he always calls me because he knows, like, whatever, I'm down for his shenanigans. We're cut from the same cloth. And He calls me and he goes, "Hey man, can you make dinner plans for us? At whatever restaurant. For me and Tara." I was like, Tara who? Tara Reid. Now, meanwhile, I'm a child of the 90s, not the 70s, the 90s. And American Pie was like my life, dude. And Tara Reid was like literally someone I adored. And I remember going and Googling online, like, has this, like, I probably shouldn't order any alcohol around this girl. I think she's clean. I call Paul, like, should I be cognizant of this? And he goes, "Oh, no, get us 2 vodka tonics or whatever." And I'm like, and that's when I knew the night was going to begin, because we were on our way to go to a Music Drives Us event that you raised a ton of money for with Megadeth. So it all comes back together. Dave Mustaine was there. Tara Reid was there. Can you explain that ridiculousness? Because I feel like that's like the most crazy mashup of people ever.
Okay, well, first of all, I got to say that Miss Reid, Tara Reid, is a wonderful, wonderful person.
She's super sweet,
and I'm honored that I even know her. Okay, honored that I even know her. As a matter of fact, her and my son still text. One thing led to another, and I met Tara, and we got along. We got along very well, and she came over. And at the time she came over, I had Dave Mustaine and Megadeth were doing an acoustic show, very rare, an acoustic show to benefit Music Drives Us, because Dave.
You bring that out to people because you made Stone Temple Pilots so inspired that they came out with an acoustic album because of you.
Yeah, Stone Temple Pilots. They played for us as totally acoustic, which is completely awesome. I love the rock band. I love the rock bands playing acoustic because I just like that type of stuff. But
you made Slash do it too.
Well, wait a minute. When I hire a national band to play for my company or an event or anything like that, usually the venues are smaller venues, and I can't. They can't have the full blown band. They just can't. So a acoustic version is not only will fit the mold better, but it's incredible to hear these guys doing acoustic versions. Like acoustic versions of Megadeth songs are just spectacular. You can Google it. You can Google it on YouTube. There are a few of Megadeth songs that they do acoustic. So it fit the mold. It fit the mold, and it was a great night. It was a good night.
I just remember thinking to myself, I just talked to Dave Mustaine. I just went out to. Here's the thing that happened afterwards. So we go back to the hotel, and Tara Reid's hungry, and the hotel's like, we don't have any open food, and they're like, is there any Chinese place open? We ordered Chinese food, and they're like, well, someone's gonna have to bring it up to her. I'm like, I'll bring it up to her. And I remember like. My girlfriend at the time being like, no, you won't. And I'm like, listen, I can handle myself, but like, I wouldn't tell you not to go up with the shiny vampire from Twilight if he wanted Chinese food. Like, what? Like, I trust you. Trust is the biggest basis of a relationship.
Yeah, no. There's no need to worry about Tara.
No, but she was so sweet. I gotta tell you that it was like a dream come true to be able to go upstairs and have Chinese food so randomly with the girl from American Pie and have her just tell me stories. I felt like,
yeah,
the whole time.
I got to reiterate, she's a great guy. But the best line from that night is when we were in with Dave in the dressing room, and Tara walked in, and Dave turns to me and he goes, "Is that Bunny?" Like those, if you get that joke, it's pretty funny. Bunny from The Big Lebowski.
Right.
Some of the stuff he says in this book is just so funny. I just love that. I mean, obviously I've never met him, but I feel like you can tell the way that he talks. And Dave Mustaine in this book, he's just so candid.
Great.
Like the thought just comes right out.
Great sense of humor. Funny guy. The one thing about those classic rock guys, they've done everything. They've seen it all. They've played every venue. They've had just everything. They're so comfortable in their own skin now, most that I think.
I got a Mustaine quote for you that you'll appreciate. So you've seen the Behind the Music, right?
Yeah.
So I posted for Siobhán because I remember one of the things that they did, because MTV used to always give snippets of what's coming up after the commercials. And it was Dave Mustaine doing like saying, I did lewds, I did heroin, I did uppers, I did downers. And then it's someone talking and he's like, I did acid, I did shrooms, I did cocaine, I did methamphetamine. More people talking. I did weed, I did speed. And then it's like, and then I died. And I remember thinking like, holy shit. That's like the most rock. I mean, don't do it at home, kids. That's the most rock and roll thing. But I'm going to tell you the story that happened to me. So the first time I went and saw Megadeth, I was like 21, or I had backstage to Megadeth. I was like 20 or 21. And I took ecstasy like a moron. Whoa. And I remember going, I was out of my mind. Totally not the right place to take that drug. You shouldn't do it. No one should do that drug. But I was experimenting at that time. I remember going up to Dave Mustaine and saying, hey, man, I saw you're behind the music. You didn't really leave a whole lot for us other rock bands to do. And he grabs me by my face and looks into my eyes and goes, looks like you're on your way. And Al Petrelli just starts dying laughing behind me.
I just hope that this whole thing will be over and that we can go out and enjoy live music again.
Absolutely, yeah.
Amen.
I think the drive-in thing is cool, and I think the online thing is cool and everything, but a nice venue with a great show.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think that this is good though? Because I feel like music has been so devalued that like you kind of got to take it away from people. Do you think this is going to make people appreciate what they have? Because it's like you don't know what you got till it's gone.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't thought of it like that. I think we're so embedded in the struggle right now that perspective hasn't even come out yet.
Because think about it. I saw that you're giving away tickets to the Metallica drive-in, but I was saying this the other day. It's $120 for a car. And that's, to me, I'm cheap. That seems expensive for a pre-recorded show when you can go see 7,000 live shows. But there's a demand. There's such a demand. People want to see it.
No. That's not pre-recorded. They're playing live.
Whatever. The point is that it's a movie. You're not there. Well, it's tons of money.
Oh, you're not there in the flesh. You're there virtually.
Okay, so I guess it's like an HBO, like Iron Maiden video from the 90s when you paid $29.95. But then all your friends could go for $29.95 to your house.
But it's the best we have now. People are searching. People are trying new things. We have to come up with some sort of model that will get us through this.
I'm just glad that people are starting to care about music again. I got to tell you, I've never had more people. I mean, obviously, everyone got on this train. Our friend Johnny A does this all the time where he gets online, he plays for people, and he tries to connect. And it's wonderful. Yeah. It's really wonderful. But it's funny because had I 6 months ago gone online and played piano randomly for people, I'd have one viewer. It'd be my mom, and she'd be like, you're messing up. Whereas when I played piano the first time, people were telling me like, you're saving my life. You're making everything better. One of my friends played me playing piano to an entire Canadian television studio. And it was like, you made our whole day. And I'm like, I really wish I could do this normally and people would care, because usually I show up to a gig and I play my heart out. And then usually the club owner's like, you didn't bring anybody, so no money this week.
Right. Yes, it's crazy. But the good thing about those Johnny A videos, Johnny A, for those that don't know, is a great Boston-based guitar player, travels all over the world, fantastic guitar player. And he was doing 10 o'clock every morning, 5 days a week. And one of the coolest things is that he's keeping his gray hair.
I like it. I like it. He looks distinguished.
I love it. He's like a statesman. I really don't like when the older rock guys dye their hair. I'm just going to say it. I just don't like it. I think they look so much cooler. Look at Jimmy Page. He stopped dyeing his hair a long time ago, and he's like the Ben Franklin of rock and roll.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing now, Ernie. You probably know this as a single man. Like so years ago it was MILFs. People liked older women. Now younger women like men. So if I have a gray hair, it's distinguished. Like I have a ton of gray hairs, but I would never get rid of them. You want to know if my whole head went gray? I'm with you, because here's the thing. That's the one advantage we have of being mentally inferior, physically inferior, Everything about us sucks compared to a woman, except we age well.
Well, some say that. Some say that.
It's not like there are exceptions to the case, but overall, it's easier for a man at 60 to make it look like it's working than for women. And women who do, I salute you, because you want to know what? I appreciate you.
I agree. I have not had my hair cut in 8 months. 8 months I haven't had my hair cut. I mean, I don't know what that means, and I don't plan on having my hair cut either. I think I love it.
Luck. Why not?
It looks great. Yeah, why not?
You know what? I want to be in a world where it doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter for you. In fact, I want to talk about another story, because here's the thing that's so great about you is that, like, you just have so many stories. You'll point to something. So I'm up in your guitar room. Ernie has this beautiful guitar room because we both share a love for guitars. And I pulled out, I want to say it's an ES335 Gibson, and it had like a plaque on the back of it. And Ernie's like, "Oh yeah, Aerosmith put that on that." Like, what do you mean? He's like, "Oh, Joey Kramer stole it and gave it to Joe Perry, and I had to tell him it was mine."
Whoa.
Am I paraphrasing wrong?
Well, let him tell the story.
Joey didn't steal anything. I lent Joey Kramer of Aerosmith, my personal friend. I love the guy. I lent him a guitar, and I didn't get it back 10 years. 10 years later, I got it back. And when I got it back, inside the F hole, it was stamped with the Aerosmith number for their catalog of guitars. Everything they have is cataloged, so they can keep track of it. And somehow the guitar that I lent Joey Kramer in 10 years when I got it back came out of the Aerosmith inventory. So I kept the little sticker that is in the F hole of the 335. I thought it was.
It quadrupled the value of it. But here, I can tell you exactly what happened. Joe Perry came over, saw it leaned against the couch, like you lean your guitars against the couch, and says, "This drummer does not deserve a guitar this nice," and took it away from him.
No, I don't know, but it's I think a lot with guitars is the story, and what they've been through. You can tell that when you pick up an older guitar that's been through the circuit, there's a vibe, there's a feel, there's just something about it,
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, that's the thing that blows my mind is you have all these relic guitars that cost as much as the vintage guitars. And it's like, why would you pay someone to beat up a guitar when age can just do it and it sounds better and it's way cooler?
Yeah, but the stuff that I have there, I really like the artist model guitars. Mm-hmm. I really, a guy from the Police and there's some Beatles models. They're not the guitar, but they're modeled right after a complete copy, like Blackie, a Clapton's Blackie.
Oh, I know. I've seen your guitars.
I got a copy of. It's a copy. It's not.
I have a mental inventory of all of them.
Right, but it's cool. I like that. I like the idea. I like the idea that it's similar to some of my my biggest inspiration and some of the people that I think are great musicians. I love it. Plus, they look so cool. It's got the cigarette burnt on the head. I mean,
so when you're talking, so you collect cars and guitars, and what are you looking for both of those? What makes you say is it something that just comes across in front of you and you're like, I need that?
At this point, I'm not looking for any more guitars.
Yeah,
cars at all. And with cars, I'm pretty set. I'm building the collection. I have it down. I have cars being restored all over the world that will eventually get back here, and the collection will be somewhat complete.
Nice.
Is the collection ever complete? Do you think? Because here's the thing: we talk about this a lot on the show, Ernie. There's a very fine line between perfectionism, like complete insecurity, and total madness. And I feel like I joke around with you, but I feel like you're like the Remington lady that you're going to keep building. You say your house is going to be done, but it won't be done. You'll eventually say, you know what? There's a space over there. I need to build something else. And you'll have a giant 80-foot marble statue built because I'm convinced you're a perfect amalgamation of the Remington lady and Khufu, who designed the Grand Pyramid.
No, the thing about it, in the old saying that art is never complete, it's only abandoned. You know, so
Right.
it's like when you finish a record, you're like, okay, that's good, and then once it's printed and pressed and everything, you listen to it again and go, oh shit, I should have. You know, at some point, you have to just let it go. Like the baby bird, you have to push it out of the nest.
That's very true. Yeah.
That's hard. Yeah. I always thought about that when I was younger, that there would be a time when you feel like something has gotten to the level of perfection. It just never is, which is why we're just constantly dissatisfied.
That's one of the most valuable lessons I've learned from the Lost Symphony stuff is like the reason I know something's done is because everyone's emailing me going, where the hell is it? We need to get it out tomorrow. You know? Like, I guess it's done.
Well, here's the thing: is that fire underneath your ass? That fear. I find myself that fear is the greatest motivator. I'm scared of everything right now. I've been more productive than I've ever been in my entire life. I'm scared to go outside. I'm scared to eat. I'm scared to talk to people. I'm scared to touch things. Do you know I'm in the best shape of my life? I'm practicing guitar. I'm getting stuff done. Fear is a great motivator. And you want to know what? It makes you better, Cory. I'll tell you from personal experience.
That's good.
Siobhán, how often do you play? Do you play every day?
I do. Yeah. I mean, occasionally there's a day that I don't, but I do. I mean, I've got like a warm up regimen that once I get, the hardest part is starting, but if I commit to starting every day, I end up going down the rabbit hole. But I do. I mean, I always keep like an ongoing list of projects and classes I want to take. I'm a learner. I always like to try and add new skills. So I do. I play every day if possible.
Yeah, no, that's good. So the warm up regimen, is it the same all the time, or it's like I'm going to do this scale, but I'm going to do it however I want it, or is it the exact same thing?
It changes because I find that if it's the same, I tune out like mentally. I have to keep it like kind of rotating. So I have kind of a basket, let's say, of different exercises, and I kind of pick and rotate through them. They're all based on the same things.
So you're not using your active brain when you're playing? Is it so automatic to you sometimes that you?
No, it has to be active because that's the problem. If you go into autopilot, you're not really storing the information. You know, it's kind of like the difference between when you show up and you play a gig or you're playing through an orchestra piece and you're actually mindfully practicing.
That's why Dave Mustaine and James Hetfield are so great, because they play these insane rhythm parts while singing. And I always think that that's such a crazy thing.
It blows my mind.
Yeah, but I got to say, Siobhán, you are a joy to watch on stage.
Thank you. That's so nice.
Just the energy. I mean, the whole band is spectacular. You can focus on each individual person and be completely entertained. But when we get to you, and you know, and you're wearing the silver dress and the high heels, and you play, it's mind blowing. It's incredible.
Oh, thank you. Well, you know, I mean, I feel like at this point in my life, every time I get on stage, I just feel like an immense amount of gratitude. And I feel like when you approach the stage with that feeling, it changes the energy that you project to the audience, you know. So it's like a very intense experience every time I perform, because I make it that way. Right. It's intentional.
Now, when you're in the dressing room and you're walking from the dressing room to the stage, is that where it all, the culmination of either the butterflies, the nervousness, whatever, and then when you hit the stage, it's over, or after the first song, it's over? How does it work with you?
I think I wouldn't say, it depends on the situation. I don't necessarily get nervous, but I get excited. And if I'm well prepared,
I knew you were going to say that. You would never be nervous. You're such a Jedi.
No, it's not true. I think nervousness comes from a lack of preparedness. And a lot of times, of course, everybody gets, you know, the physical manifestations of nervousness. But if you're secure and you've gone through your mindful practice, your body's going to respond, you know? So I do get jitters, but I know in my heart it's excitement. So it kind of depends, but usually it kind of lasts through the first half of the song, and then I settle, because you have to get the vibe from the audience. You know, you also, your experience of that beginning is impacted by what you're getting from the crowd also.
Energy transfers.
Yeah.
And your crowd is, in my opinion, they're completely devoted to you. Mm-hmm. Again, the word cult comes to mind.
They're drinking the grape Kool-Aid. They're drinking the grape Kool-Aid for sure.
Kool-Aid. Yeah. It's not, hey, let's check out this band. No. Everybody's there.
But here's the same thing, though. You're the same way, because I got to tell you, you want to know how I knew that we were onto something? Was I called up Ernie, and I said, hey, my friend Siobhán's in town. She's a virtuoso violinist. You're like, she is? I'm like, yeah, I'll bring her over if you want. You're like, really? And I brought her over. She played it in your kitchen. And listen, you're a man that has a mausoleum. You have a car salon. The look on your face was literally priceless.
It was incredible. I put that up it's on my Instagram. If you
yeah.
Go to Ernie Boch Jr., scroll down, you're on it. It's incredible.
Oh, thank you.
She's so good that Sony keeps thinking that she belongs to them, and they don't realize that she's just so accurate that she sounds like Itzhak Perlman.
Oh no, he's referring to I'm doing these recordings or like videos, and every once in a actually pretty often it gets muted because they think that it's a commercial recording.
They think it's somebody else.
Piano, and they said that I stole it, and I said no, I can send you the original recording. I just made it right here, but however they screen it, I don't know.
Imagine being so good you have to convince someone you're not Yo-Yo Ma.
No, you're flattering me too much. No, it's all, listen, when you're in my position, you're just always trying to get better. And when you love it so much, there's always something else that you can make it more beautiful, more powerful. Like you said, it's never done. Every day is just one more step in the right direction. No destination.
Yeah. And that's bringing us up on the end of our second hour here.
Wow. See, it goes by fast, right? At least for me.
Ernie called me this morning. He was like, what are we going to talk about? I'm like, I don't know. And I still can't tell you what we talked about. I have not a clue. Only when Cory edits all the crap out of this will we be able to understand the cohesive idea behind. I honestly don't even know what I said.
You said a lot of words.
A lot of them.
But
hey, like Nuno, I get paid by the word.
Right. Ernie, it's been fascinating. We definitely appreciate your time. And I think that you've had a lot of insight that probably most of our listeners wouldn't have that perspective. So it's super interesting. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. And for everyone out there, they should follow you. So maybe tell everyone again for the second episode here where they can find you online or.
You get me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at Ernie Boch Jr.
Yep. And go to musicdrivesus.org because literally, there is nothing more that makes my day than seeing you with a giant Santa sack filled with instruments because you do it. I mean, it's literally like Oprah, except with instruments. And that for me is even cooler than the stupid stuff she gives out. This is fantastic. And here's the thing. Kids have a way more malleable mind than we do. We can't learn the recorder. We're stupid. We peaked it 25 years ago. Those kids have such a chance. And by not giving them instruments early, we are doing them such a disservice. So what you're doing, it's just, you couldn't be doing better work, at least from our perspective.
Well, thank
you.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's amazing.
With that said, we got 2020 because we can't even raise enough money for it. But you know what? If you're rich and you have a bunch of money, maybe you should send something to musicdrivesus.org or maybe get Megan up to play another acoustic set for us.
All right.
So thanks for coming, Ernie. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.